Hello and welcome to the Collecting Heroes podcast. I'm your host JD, the collector of collectors, and this is the podcast where I interview pop culture collectors from around the world. Today I'm taking a step back in time with my next guest. His name is Bobby. He's from Austin, and he is a vintage McDonald's super collector who also runs a page and a YouTube channel called Consumer Time Capsule. So, Bobby, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, JD. And it's so funny. You call yourself a collector of collectors, and I've always used the phrase vintage McDonald's super collector since I've kind of hyper specialized on the McDonald's collecting front.
Yeah.
And when people ask me, like, what does that mean? Like, does it just mean your collection is super? Is it big? But really, what I mean by it is I've built my collection by meeting collectors and getting kind of the best out of their collections. So I consider myself like a collector of McDonald's collections. So I'm like a collector of collections and you're a collector of collectors. So
I love that.
Maybe this podcast visit was meant to be.
I think so. I definitely think so. I got to say, like, I saw your page and I thought it was really cool having a look at all the different snapshots you've got of your Translite signs, of your Happy Meal promos, all those sorts of things. And just stepping back in time, even, watching some of the videos on your YouTube channel, I think for a lot of people listening to this podcast who are collectors themselves, and even those who aren't, would be familiar growing up. At some point, you probably got a Happy Meal toy at some point in your life. I think it's really ingrained in us all.
I think it's as close to at least in the U.S. I know we're not we're not in the same geography here, but at least in the U.S., I know that it's a universally shared experience of going to McDonald's with your family, and most folks ended up getting Happy Meals and saving their toys, or remember different kind of giveaways or different limited time promotions, or
Definitely.
And it's cool for me to help folks reconnect with those memories. And, it's something that's important to me, is kind of capturing that history, because, if I don't do it, I don't know who's going to put in the work and do it for me.
I love that. So I always get people at the start of the show to sort of, I love to dive in because everything is rooted really in the nostalgia, right? But there's also usually a personal story behind it. So for you, what's the obsession with McDonald's? Why McDonald's? You mentioned to me earlier, you're not really a movie guy or a sports guy or anything like that, but McDonald's, for whatever reason, is the thing for you. What was it?
Well, I guess, so just to take it all the way back, I've just been basically a natural born collector, right? I've just always really kind of focused a lot of my time and energy towards being a collector and having a collection and kind of obsessing over specific things. As a kid, I started, oddly enough, I started with political signs and like politics in general, and with cigarette ads, which I would pull out of magazines at all my family and neighbors and friends' houses. So those are kind of the first things that I kind of got super into and collected. And then as time went on, I got into basketball cards. You had mentioned you were a David Robinson fan. So I had plenty of David Robinson cards back in the day.
Me too.
And Pogs. Do you guys have Pogs?
We did.
Australia?
We did have Pogs. Yeah.
Little cardboard game that you
Jam
throw the
Pogs, Cheetos. There was Looney Tunes. We had Pogs. We had definitely had
very
Pogs
nice
in the 90s.
So, I was super obsessed with Pogs. I still have actually a really nice, extensive Pog collection. But once I was first introduced to eBay, it would have been, I believe it was my first day of maybe 7th grade, which would have been 1997. Basically nobody was on eBay at that point, right? It was like, a few thousand items, right? And a buddy of mine grabbed me, pulled me into the library and said, you got to check out this auction website because they've got like all these different collectibles and stuff. And that's when I realized I could reconnect with a lot of the stuff that I had regretted not saving. Really what I would have liked to have collected in retrospect were things like, discontinued soda cans. You might notice on my Consumer Time Capsule pages, I post a lot of old soda cans. Like, I
Yes,
think I'm probably most known for my McDonald's collection and my McDonald's collection road trips, where I visit different collectors across the country and kind of
which
fill
I
up my
love.
car with it, with stuff. I, that's probably what I'm most known for. But really, what got me into the food and drink collectible sector was really soda cans. So getting stuff like just the basics, like the really easy collectibles to acquire, stuff like Crystal Pepsi can or New Coke can. I mean, nothing that's like a huge centerpiece of the collection or that many other folks don't have. But at the time, late '90s, there really wasn't a way to be able to find this stuff. Like there really wasn't. If you in 1997 searched on like Google or Yahoo or whatever you're using, the Ask Jeeves or whatever, you're looking for even a picture of a Crystal Pepsi can. It was tough enough, right?
Yeah,
But you could go on eBay and eventually somebody would post one, and so I slowly grew my collection that way. But I also have been traveling the country, going to grocery stores, and still to this day, actually today I probably went to 7 or 8 grocery stores just today alone, getting any kind of packaging variant, limited time item, seasonal, regional products. I collect cereal boxes, soda cans. I collect magazine ads and supermarket sales circulars, coupon inserts, basically anything that's food or drink oriented, with a heavy emphasis on the 80s and 90s, but really up through this day, I probably collect it. And then a few years back, so this would have been probably August of 2020, I went to an antique mall in Joplin, Missouri, and I stumbled upon the antique mall booth that was run by probably the most legendary McDonald's collector of all time, named Meredith Williams. He's the guy who founded the McDonald's Collectors Club and convention. He had a monthly newsletter, a couple books that he released in the mid 90s. And now today's a 83-year-old guy with 2 garages full of the most amazing McDonald's collection you've ever seen. And after 9 separate visits, I've probably acquired the cream of the crop from him. But
and
I,
it's
I
all
always
been
find
growing
new
from
stuff
there.
when I go and visit. So I'd say he's probably what lit that spark, even though it was something that I've always been really connected with. I think that McDonald's is probably the most prominent brand in my collection. Well, certainly now it is, but even back then, there's just so much to collect. There's so many fun promotions and products that they've had over the years. Because it was always like food and drink is so general, right? So
Mhm.
people didn't really know what Consumer Time Capsule was really all about at that time. And I think now, if you ask somebody who's seen it, they probably say, "Oh, that's the McDonald's guy," and that's just a little bit easier of like an elevator pitch,
Yeah,
And I think that that's kind of fun. That
if you go
I
through
can
your
kind of have
videos
an
though,
area of super specialization.
if you go through your videos though, I noticed the change that happened over your videos when I was looking through your YouTube channel. You see
Sure.
where it started with a lot of the stuff with the cans and the different food. So there was like a comparing 3 flavors of Oreos and everything. So I mean I'm a big foodie myself as well.
Sure.
Um, so I love that aspect. So I get how that one could then trail into the other.
And the reason why you would have kind of seen that evolution on YouTube is really kind of the only social media that I just organically used myself. Like I just don't really like, well, I mean I do now, but until I figured out how to use it, I didn't really like Twitter or Instagram. I never had a personal one of either of those. I used to have a Facebook back in the day that I just didn't open for 5 years, like
Like most of us.
every other mid 30s and beyond user of Facebook, I think. But on my YouTube, I just kind of just one day just decided it's time for me to have some kind of an online presence, because I'd really built a collection that I was really proud of. And I just kind of thought about the channels that I like to watch. So I just was posting old commercials and old VHS tapes. The
Yeah.
first thing that really made a big splash was I posted the Crystal Pepsi employee only instructional marketing tape that got over 500,000 views. So if you've seen that online, that was something that I found on eBay back in think I would have got that in maybe 2003. So I was holding on to that for a long time before I released that to the public. And then what I realized was I'm buying dozens and dozens of, new kind of, like I said, like the limited edition or the seasonal products,
Yeah.
Anything food and drink oriented from grocery stores all the time anyway. Why don't I turn on a camera with my best friend Ryan and, we review thousands of different food and drink items. But honestly, I'm not a tech savvy guy. I'm not an editor. I'm not very brief with my words, which you might find out the hard way here, JD. So honestly, it just never really caught fire. And what I ended up doing was, basically practically shutting down the YouTube, while I keep all my videos up, and really transitioning to Instagram and to Twitter and posting, a couple images of things from my collection every day. And that seems to be something that is a little bit more shareable, a little bit more digestible. Maybe somebody doesn't want to listen to me talk for 14 minutes about some new cereals, but they do want to take 20 seconds to look at an old promotional sign for something they remember from 1992 from McDonald's, right? So,
Well, there's an audience.
So that's kind of where I found myself today. What's that?
I mean, there's an audience for both, right? Like at some point, there's going to be those people who want to just look at the old nostalgic photos, and then there's going to be the people like myself, who's a foodie, who might want to see, about the flavors of different stuff. It's funny that you talk about the drinks, because there is actually something that I've seen in the background of your videos, which really
I know what you're going to say, but I'm going to let you finish.
I don't know if you do. I'm not sure if you do, but Fruitopia.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
that's not what I expected.
That's not what you thought. Fruitopia. So back in the mid to sort of mid 90s, I think it was
was released in 1994, at least in the States.
Yeah. I thought it was mid 90s. I was obsessed with Fruitopia here in Australia. Yeah. They had them in the glass bottles.
Yes, I have all 8 of the launch flavors in glass bottles. Those wouldn't be behind me. They're not on the can shelf, but I do have those.
No, well, I saw in one of the ones in the videos, you have the glass bottles in the background next to the Newport cigarette.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so this would have been one of the more recent videos. You are right. Yeah. So yeah, you were looking at the 8 launch bottles.
Strawberry.
Okay, so I thought where you were going to go.
Obsessed with.
What I thought you were going to talk about is, so right behind me, there'd be these cans, because a lot of times I'd use my can shelf as my background, which is a shelf that I had a contractor built that displays 143 cans, right? So It's 11 rows of 13 cans. It's 6 feet tall. And right in the middle, it's a test marketed chips in a can concept from Pepsi. So there's like nacho cheesier Doritos and rolled gold pretzels and Cheetos. And it's the same design as you'd see on the bag in 1998, but it's on an aluminum 12-ounce can. So I get asked about that.
Had the chips in it, or it was an actual drink?
And their chips are still in it. They're all sealed. None of my soda cans can be sealed because they would all eventually, self-destruct. But so the reason why they did it was, there were a lot of like rest stops and motels and stuff that they didn't have a drink machine, they didn't have a snack machine, but they had a soda machine. Mm-hmm. So they would take out some of the least popular Pepsi branded flavors and replace them with a snack. So they'd grab a couple purchases from somebody, or maybe they'd get a purchase from somebody who already had a drink in the car or in their room. So I get asked about those every day because they're in the background of a lot of my shots, and I used to get asked about those on my videos all the time. So it is cool that you are absolutely right. You did see the glass bottles from the launch. I got that from a Coca-Cola employee who had them in like the original case, first off the line Fruitopia bottles that never got opened. I purchased those, and that wasn't cheap. I had to take my medicine on that one, but it was definitely worth it. Definitely something that I was glad to add to my collection.
It's funny that you said that it wasn't cheap, because I do remember back in the day, like I say back in the day, showing my age when I say things like that. But back when I was a teenager, drinking the Fruitopia drinks, it was Strawberry Passion Awareness that I was obsessed with.
That's
That
the
was
key
one that I
flavor.
loved.
Yep, that's the main
Um,
one.
and I used to play. I've spoken about this prior episodes, but I used to play music when I was younger. I used to play in bands, and so as a teenager, I had this weird thing that I used to do, and it was a tradition for me when we had a gig day that I would buy two bottles of the Strawberry Passion Awareness. I would drink one usually when I bought them. I would drink the one that I bought, and then I would save the second one, and I would have that, and I would take that and drink it when I like on stage. I would have it on stage with me, and I would drink it while and probably a fruit drink is probably not the best for my vocal cords, but I was just obsessed
No.
with this drink. Um, that I would just always have to have a bottle of it with me. It was just this little weird tradition thing that I did. But then I was so upset when they got rid of them. And when you talk about
Yep.
the how much you had to pay for them, I do remember back in the day that they were back in the day again. I do remember that they were around $3.50 to $4 a bottle here in Australia. Now our
Wow.
dollar is a bit different to yours, but that
Sure.
was still pretty expensive back in the day for like in the mid 90s for a drink.
So,
I'm gonna stop saying
you
that.
know, I don't tend to focus on the financials of my collection too awfully much because then it really makes me seem kind of silly. But I will reveal that so I paid $500 for those 8 sealed bottles to get the complete
Wow,
set. So
wow.
that was like I say when I say I took my medicine, it was a stiff one, but it was one that I really felt like it was probably a once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to get all 8 in completely mint from the factory, never been on a store shelf from the launch day of Fruitopia, given to somebody who worked on the campaign. And I just said, screw it, let's
Dang it.
do it.
No, well, I mean, it's a grail, right? We talk about
It
grails in our
is.
collections. That's obviously a grail for you, and when you want that grail item, sometimes you do have to bite the bullet on that.
Yep.
I get it. Let's take it back to McDonald's again. We've gotten
Sure.
away from McDonald's. So, so your obsession sort of started in Missouri when you started picking up the items there. Uh, you've one of the things that I've noticed in your recent videos and the way that it has changed. I love the collecting McDonald's on the road, the McDonald's on the road
Sure.
series, and I watched a couple of those videos, including one where you actually do go to Missouri. And I was watching it, I was gobsmacked looking at the collection and some of the Batman stuff they had on display there as
Yeah.
well. I was thinking, well, next time you go to Missouri, Bobby, maybe I'll have to ask you to pick something
Hey,
up for me.
let me know.
One of the things that I notice you collect a lot in amongst these is translite signs. So the signs that would be up in the background when you were ordering and you'd look at as a kid, those are the signs that you collect. I think from memory it was 14-inch and 22-inch are the two size
You
versions.
got it, man. You've been paying close attention.
I
So,
do a little bit of research.
so that is by far my primary focus of my McDonald's collection. I have over 1,600 different designs of
Oh wow,
McDonald's
it was
translite
like
signs.
under
Um,
1,500, I think, in that last video that I watched. So it's
what was that? Did I
increasing
say?
trend.
Oh, okay, perfect. So yeah, I do have so I have over 1,600 different designs of those signs. But really, there's 6 benchmark kind of things that I really want pretty much all of, right? So number one is translite signs. So like you mentioned, those are the signs that would be on the back of the menu, the ordering board, or they'd be on the drive-through if it were the smaller sign version. And they'd always focus on the newest product promotion, Happy Meal, game, whatever was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the tray liners. So these are just the thin pieces of paper that they put on your tray. They
Yes.
use that space to promote some kind of that similar premise, right? So it's going to be, whatever, a Happy Meal promotion, a new burger that they have, a new drink that they're offering, a new, so
Yeah.
and I love the advertising of it. I just think it's a great. You want to talk about time capsule, right? Consumer time capsule. That's the time capsule, right? So there's a professional photograph of something that's from the restaurant, and it's nice to have a nice uniform collection. So I believe it's over 600 of those tray liners, different tray liners, which can be tough because, of course, they all get all greasy and thrown in the trash and all that stuff. So it'd
That's
have to
what I'm
be
gonna
somebody
say.
who would have to be dedicated enough as a McDonald's collector to grab a couple extra. 'Cause, I mean, they'll hand you 10 of them if you want them to, right? So I mean, you just gotta ask, right? It's not like the translate signs where they're designed to be thrown in the trash by the manager once the promotion's over.
Yeah.
They'll hand you those tray liners all day. There are a few folks that had saved them, and anytime I see a collection of the tray liners, I just buy them all. And those are not high dollar items. Those are not Fruitopia bottles there, JD. So but it's a cool little snapshot of promotions.
The liners, though, as you said, because of the fact that they get greasy, they get thrown out, and because they are so flimsy as well, like they're thin. I mean, they're almost like baking paper, right? The older ones.
Yep. True ephemera. I mean, if you want to talk about the most ephemeral collectible, that might be it, right? It's the thinnest paper known to man, and as soon as a burger or fries or whatever ends up on that, it's ruined, right?
Yeah.
It's not salvageable at that point.
So how rare is it when you go into a collection to see them in mint condition? I mean, you said you've got 600 of them.
So, well, I have 600 different ones. I mean, I'd say it's pretty common to see a stack that's, about the size of an encyclopedia.
Okay.
But a lot of times it's 500. You want to talk about Batman? I can't tell you how many of those Gotham City Globe or whatever, the ones from the McDonald's, the cups, the plastic cups that they did. And I'll tell you, I've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of those. So a lot of times if you see a big stack of them, it's all from one promotion. Maybe they just got a whole unused pack of them or something. Okay. But then there are some more serious collectors that did go to McDonald's, every week and get the new tray liner. And I've tried to pick those off. See, I really deal exclusively at this point when it comes to, expanding my McDonald's collection by visiting pretty serious McDonald's collectors. So in my world, the tray liners are a little bit easier to find. But if you were to try to find them on something like eBay, it's just it's going to take you more than a lifetime to find 600 different tray liners. I mean, you'd have to live the next 10 lifetimes just to have as many as I've already got in my collection. It's just there are certain more popular ones, right? If it's something like Batman, people like Batman. Hey, maybe they want to take it home and, an 8-year-old wants to put it on his wall with some thumbtacks or something, right? Yeah. I don't know. It's like, so those are a little bit more common. But, if you, for example, I had posted one a few weeks ago from a fried chicken, mashed potatoes, and coleslaw promotion that only ran in like South Carolina for like 3 weeks in 1992. Like that tray liner, that might be the only one that survived. So, that's kind of benchmark number 2. Number 3 would be Happy Meal boxes from the original tests in 1977 through the early 90s. And I'm only missing 6 from the first 20 years of the Happy Meal, including all the test markets and all the regional promotions.
Wow. I want to talk about Happy Meals. I've made some notes. As you mentioned, like I do a bit of research prior to this. And I was actually reading an article talking about the history of the Happy Meal. And so for people, just
I wonder if it was right. I'm interested to hear.
Well, hopefully it was. Well, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the Happy Meals, apparently the brainchild of Bob Bernstein, an old ad executive. Originally, they started them in Kansas in 1977, and they ran them there as a test audience for over a year before McDonald's finally gave the approval to go national in 1979. And the first Happy Meal of that version, Happy Meal, apparently cost $1.10. Any of that sound correct?
That was pretty good. That was really good. So, I mean, there was also a competing promotion. So it was called the Fun to Go, which is technically kind of like the first Happy Meal. There's a few different ways of like saying like what is the first Happy Meal, but if you're using the phrase Happy Meal, you're right. There were 4 regional tests. They were all Kansas City based, and those are the ones. Those are kind of the Grail boxes, right? Those are the ones you really want to have. I'm only missing 1 out of those 4 test boxes. That So it's 3, 3, 3, and 4 boxes
Did they go
in
for a
those
pretty penny?
four. What was that?
Did they go for a pretty penny as well?
They when they come along, but who knows? It's just a matter of timing. You could probably find one for $50 if just nobody's looking that week. It's just, you would think that this would be such a big deal, but honestly, like Happy Meal boxes, I think I might just be like the one that's kind of super collector of the Happy Meal boxes at this point. Like, I mean, I think that some folks might want one, like, people are into like, Ghostbusters or whatever, and they just want the 4 boxes. You can
Yeah.
probably get them for $15 or something, or Mario or something like that. But when it comes to like the super McDonald's specific stuff, you'd be surprised. It's actually probably a bit more reasonable than you'd think. So there was a competing notion to test something called the Fun to Go meal, which was a longer Happy Meal box, and like the artwork was a little bit more extensive, and it was running it also in 1977 to kind of determine, are we going to call it a Fun to Go, are we going to call it a Happy Meal? And I do have also all the Fun to Go boxes, so there's 6 in that set. And but one of them is so unbelievably rare that we had previously thought that it never got released. The 4th box in the series, called the McMobile, is included in all of the kind of McDonald's history retrospective books, but never photographed. I mean, literally, they don't even have one at the McDonald's corporate archives. My McDonald's collecting mentor, Meredith Williams, he's been to their archives and says they don't have it. That's why I wasn't able to photograph it and put it in my book. They don't have it. Well, I get a collector in Ohio calling me this past December and says, "Hey, when you come over, do you have any of those Fun to Go boxes?" I said, "Well, yeah. I mean, I think I have basically the full set. I've got 5, unless you've got this McMobile, as they call it, which mobile, like you cut out the characters and you hang them from a hanger, like a mobile from like first grade art class."
Yeah.
So he's like, "No, I've got it. I'm holding it in my hand right now."
Wow.
So I this past December, I got this box that was so unbelievably rare that nobody had ever even seen it. And that's kind of one of those like fun history things that if you're just a super McDonald's nerd, that you're really you're gonna hit the floor. I could post it tomorrow on Twitter, and I'd probably get more likes sharing a David Robinson Dream Team cup. It's like which has millions and millions and millions of examples out there.
But Bobby,
But that was a big win for me as a collector. That's a real kind of completionist.
When you got that confirmation from him that he was holding one in his hand, what was the feeling? Like, was the heart beating? Like,
I literally could not believe it. So my fiance was with me in the car, and she just was like, she could just tell that I was freaking out. I was trying to play it cool because I was on the phone with a guy I ended up exchanging some funds with, but we came to a pretty fair deal. He wanted it to go to a good home, and he definitely underpaid relative to its scarcity. So that was pretty cool. So that's kind of, so we talked about 6. So we got the tray liners. Was the last one. Translights is my primary thing. The first 20 years of Happy Meal boxes. And then also the cardboard register topper signs. So this is another way that they use. See, McDonald's uses, fortunately for me, they use every inch of space they can to promote as much as they can. So a lot of times what doesn't end up on a Translight sign or on a tray liner, they'll put it right in front of the register, just a small cardboard sign. So I collect those. Pretty much, those are all the ways that they use kind of visually in sign form or similar format to promote any of their new stuff. And then kind of in the more general sense, I collect anything Halloween and McDonald's oriented.
I saw the Halloween nuggets.
Or with the character Mac Tonight, which is like the crescent moon late night spokesmoon that they used to have. So those are really my 6 kind of areas of specialization where I really want to have absolutely everything. I don't want to be missing anything from those 6 categories.
So you have because I was just mentioning the nuggets, the Halloween nuggets, where they dress up. I saw that you collect those toys. It was a question that I sort of threw out to you prior to recording. I sent you a message and you said you wouldn't need time to prepare it. You'd know straight off the top of your head. And that was, what would be your top three collectible series that McDonald's brought out? Your personal.
So, and it's funny when you had asked the question initially, you had said like cups or glasses, and you
Yeah.
had said toys. So
Or other,
I'll
yeah.
give you two different answers, right? So we'll start with I think the probably the less colorful, interesting one. I'll start with like the cups and glasses, right? So third favorite, I'll say the Garfield mugs, because
Mm-hmm.
my grandmother on my mom's side, she had one, the one that says "Rise to the occasion," and he's down on the seesaw. I had that one in my grandmother's house, and that's what I drank out of exclusively. And apparently, it's just swarming with lead and cadmium. So hopefully, I don't end up with some kind of tumor growing out of the side of my head because of it or something. But I drank out of that a lot. So that, for personal nostalgia. Number two, I'd say the glasses to go, which were the kind of six of the key McDonald Land characters imprinted on a glass.
Yeah.
Those have survived and found their way to practically every antique mall in America. So if you want a glass with Grimace or Captain Crook or Officer Big Mac or the Hamburglar, they're probably pretty easy to find. It got saved in droves. But my all-time favorite kind of cup or glass promotion, and I already briefly referenced it earlier, is the 1992 Dream Team Cups. I loved the 1992 Dream Team, and I remember just begging my parents and my aunt to just take me to McDonald's so I could get all the 10 cups. And then you had to mail away for Christian Leitner and Clyde Drexler because they were the last two additions to the team. And so I remember doing that. And I still, when I'm at home, I drink out of those exclusively to this day. So when I'm on the road picking up McDonald's collections and I see Dream Team cups, I just stock them up. I got dozens and dozens of 1992 Dream Team cups because all right. So, I knew you were going to bring out a Batman mug, and you did. So that is very impressive.
For
And
people
even
listening, I've just brought out the 1995 Batman Forever glass mug. On display.
that is a really, that's a really solid piece, and people love those Batman mugs. Let
Yeah.
me tell you, if I post something about that, thousands of people come out of the woodwork. They love Batman mugs, so you are not alone in that. But for me, it was all about those Dream Team cups. I think that the design of them is it's really more of actually really like a late 80s design. It was a little dated in 1992. It had a black background and like a very kind of colorful scratched color scheme behind them. And then you had
Yeah.
the player and some little facts about the player outlined. My guy was Larry Bird at the time, and I love, of course. I mean, who doesn't love Magic Johnson and Patrick Ewing and David Robinson and all these guys? All the most iconic basketball players of my lifetime, as far as I'm concerned, are all depicted on these cups. And when I see them in these collections, I just pick them up and I drink out of them, and I just use them up until they will fade. That's the one downside of those cups. If you use them, you got maybe. It's like an hourglass. There's only so much sand. You wash through them enough times, and those designs will fade. So once they start turning get completely whited out, and then I'll just toss them in the trash and take out the new fresh one.
You can always go to Missouri and just pick up some more. From what I saw on your video, it seems like
You're
you had
absolutely
20
right.
of them, and they're only about $1.50 each.
That was it. What I tend to pay, like in a private collection for those, I usually just group, put them in groups of 3 for like $5. That people don't want a ton of money for those. They're not using them. Most of them are extremely nasty and take a few washings just before you can pour water in there without poisoning yourself, right? So that's kind of the cup and mug top 3, but I'd say what folks are probably more interested in would be the Happy Meal promotions. So I'd say we've already actually referenced the number 3 favorite that I have, which would be the 1993 Halloween McNugget Buddies. I think it's the best out of the Halloween, I think it's the best out of the McNugget Happy Meal promotions. There was one in 1988 with 12 characters, 10 plus 2 under 3 toys. This is the middle one, right? So this is going to be the one from 1993 that has 6 characters. You get the pumpkin, the witch, the ghost, the mummy. You know, it's a very iconic set, and one that I remember very well from the time. One that my mom has used to decorate for every Halloween ever since. You know, one that I have a couple sealed examples of, and I have the countertop display haunted house that, you know, kind of, you know, it would elicit the reaction from the kids that walked in. You know, they'd have that little Ronald holding the you know, the display of that week's Happy Meal promotion. So I do have that haunted house.
That's cool.
Number 2, I would say the 1989 new food changeables, which
Uh-huh.
was the
I knew
second out
changeables
of
were
the
going to be in
3.
there.
Yep, second out of the 3 changeables sets. So changeables was McDonald's answer to Transformers. They did test Transformers in 1985 in St. Louis. That's probably the most valuable and sought after set of Happy Meal toys. And I do have that full set, and I do have the boxes for that. But to me, I'm not talking retail value. I'm just talking about sentimental value and my favorite toys. So for me, it'd be the 1989 new food changeables, which were I feel like it was perfect because it was still robots, but it was a larger line of toys.
Mm-hmm.
Just really, really a cool promotion, right? Like, you know, you get a you know, milkshake turning into a robot, and a, you know, cheeseburger turning into a robot, and it's just so much fun. And I never got into Transformers or really many toy lines at all when I was a kid, but I loved, you know, I even back then, you know, I just was so attracted to anytime it would be something that was McDonald's oriented as the toy.
Yeah.
That's when I always went to McDonald's. It would be when it was, you know, 101 Dalmatians or something, that I'd end up going to Burger King or Wendy's or something if, you know, it was my fast food treat meal for the week. But I love those 1989 new food changeables. You know, I will say, though, a lot of people, when they think about the changeables and they call them Transformers, even though they're not branded as Transformers, a lot of folks love those, the McDino changeables from 1991, where they turn into dinosaurs. I'm less into those. You know, I think that they're
I don't
cool,
even remember
but
seeing
I
them.
like the robots concept much better.
Well, yeah, they're really cool. I mean, I don't even remember if the changeables came out in Australia. I wanna say they did, but I mean, I was so young at the time, I can't remember. I definitely
Sure.
don't. I mean, I still have a couple of my old Happy Meals toys from the Batman lines, but
Hmm.
I don't have anything else outside of that. I know that my younger sisters, through the 90s, and they were toddlers,
Hmm.
got just about every Happy Meal toy that was coming out. They had weekly trips that a family friend would take them to get Happy Meals every week, sometimes twice in a week, and they would always get a Happy Meal toy every time. And they just collected so many of them over about a year. 2 girls, 50 trips at a
Yep.
minimum. You got 100 plus Happy Meal toys. They had pretty much every set that was coming out over a year or two, and they had a massive toy box that was just full. That's one of my memories when I think about Happy Meal toys, is this massive toy box that they had, just chock a block full of Happy Meal toys, including Muppet
Very
Babies
nice.
and things.
Very nice. But my favorite, and I think that folks that have been following my Twitter and Instagram for a while could probably guess, are the Halloween pails. Most
Yes.
specifically, the 1985 test market Halloween pails, where it was tested in. So there was a kind of Boston focused and a New York focused test market, but it was way. I mean, if you look at them side by side, you would notice. I don't think that you could notice it across the room like I can after seeing so many Halloween pails. But in 1985, the orange of the pumpkins, because the first set was just 3 different pumpkins per market.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had a much deeper orange color base, and you had a bigger face. So it took up more of the front of the pail, and they just display perfectly. I love those. So in one of the markets, they both got McBoo, which was the kind of the face, that the O face that they ended up using for the national releases for many other years after that. And then you had Mick Jack and Mick Punky, which only ran in New York, but were better known both in the Boston area and then later nationally as Mick Punkin and Mick Goblin, which did survive. Same design of the face, but with different names.
Oh.
So if I had to be ultra specific, it would be the New York test of the 1985 Halloween Pails is my favorite. That is one of the few Happy Meal toys, quote unquote, although, I mean, it's really kind of a Happy Meal box too. Kind of satisfies both categories because you would put the food, you'd put your fries and your burger in the Halloween pail. So it's a toy, but it's also a box, which, of course, I collect the boxes. But I'd say that is my favorite line of Happy Meal toys for me. I think about those coming up as Halloween decorations every single year. And,
that's cool.
I love them. I love them.
I can tell. I can see it. Like, it's like obviously people can't see you, but I can see the smile on your face, the tone in your voice. You can tell just how much reverence you have for that. I will, because we're sort of getting up towards time. It's probably going to be one of the longer episodes that I've done. And I actually don't mind. I'm having a really awesome time hearing about this, and you are an absolute wealth of knowledge. It's funny that you mention the shape, like being in the bucket, getting stuff in the bucket, because I was looking through your page and there was something that sort of caught my eye, and I had no idea that they brought out, and was the 80s ship shape Happy Meal, where it was actually a plastic ship container that you got your Happy Meal in that you could then use in the bath and would float. And then I think probably the same material they used maybe to make the Dukes of Hazzard, the General Lee car, which I also saw in one of your videos. I had no idea that they did these shaped boxes like that. Tell me a bit more about that.
So they call the form vacuum form, right? So it's like it's a very, very, very thin plastic, like as disposable and crackable and breakable of a plastic as you've ever seen. You're talking about playing with it in a bathtub. Unless that kid
maybe once
is wearing like the puffiest mittens you've ever seen and gently placing it in that tub and doesn't really touch it or play with it or look at it wrong, they break. I mean, it's basically designed for a brief amount of fun during that meal, and then they are gone.
And then they can come back and buy another one.
Yeah, they've done this several times. So they did 3 different spaceship shapes, a test in 1981, a national release in 1982, and then another regional release called Glotrons in 1986. Then in 1982, they did the Dukes of Hazzard cars, which are probably the most infamous Happy Meal ever because they did feature on the back of the translite sign the Confederate flag, which is, of course, very messed up. And I'm not trying to make light of a, pretty serious implication with the imagery there, but it's from the TV show in McDonald's defense, right? So that is the most valuable translite sign, and I do have that one in my collection, but also I have the 5 cars, so it's 5 of the vehicles from the show, and inside each of these, both the spaceships and the Dukes of Hazzard cars and the ship shape, which I'll get into because that's what you specifically asked about. Inside, there was a toy, unlike with the Halloween Pails. The toy was a sticker sheet that you decorated your little plastic toy with, right? So, in 1982, they did the Dukes of Hazzard cars, and that was only a regional release. Missouri gets a lot of this stuff, which is fortunate for me since most of my collecting buddies, I wouldn't say most. That's not fair, but I'd say out of any state, the most of my collecting buddies, McDonald's collecting buddies, are based out of Missouri. So that's helped me in my collection. But whenever I see those Dukes of Hazzard cars, I always buy them up because that's a very sought after collectible, and you never know if you're going to need to trade somebody or something. So I always grab those when I can. But then in 1983 and in 1985, they ran the same national ship shape promotion, which was it was like boat shaped toys, and inside there'd be a sticker sheet that you decorate the boats. There are very few Happy Meal promotions that ran nationally exactly the same multiple years. I don't know if it just wasn't too successful of a promotion, or it was an overwhelmingly successful promotion, or what, but instead of coming out with new ships or slight modifications of the old ships like they would do with the spaceships, they're exactly the same.
Nice.
Even the translite sign from 1983 and 1985, it's exactly the same.
Well, that makes it easier to collect.
Well, I have both. I have one with a 1983 copyright and a 1985 copyright because I'm just an idiot. But but yes, in theory it does. I guess, but for the toys though, it would be the same, right? So I guess yeah, in that sense, I do only have one set of the toys. I'm really less. Notice that when I mentioned my 6, I didn't even mention toys, right?
Yeah.
I'm less about the toys. I do have over 300 Happy Meal toys in my collection, but and then plus any of the pails, and so probably I guess more closer to 400. But to me, that's actually not a very staggering number. I bet that your sisters had that in that toy box, right? When it comes to McDonald's Happy Meal toys, that's not too impressive of a number. I'm not that into the toys unless it's something that's like really interesting to me, and I kind of use the translite signs and the tray liners and the boxes as my way of kind of capturing all those different promotions. But yeah, I do have do have the 1983 and 1985 ship shape translite sign just because I'm a maniac when it comes to translates. I don't want to be missing one of the copyright years. That's such a silly way to be missing a sign, right?
I love it. And look, I want to keep moving things along because, as I mentioned, we're getting to be one of the longer episodes. And I do still have a couple things that I really wanted to touch on.
Let's do it.
One is another thing that I noticed on there was Babe themed cookies, a very popular Australian movie for me. Pride as an Aussie, having Babe themed cookies was a concept that was floated at one point. Obviously, didn't happen. But it was really interesting to see that this movie almost sparked its own cookie line, which would have been, as per the description on your post, the only time that it didn't feature the McDonald's characters on the cookies.
Correct. So the way that I was able to bring that to the kind of consumer time capsule audience was I made a very bulky purchase in Chicago. The guy who designed all of the kids promotions, mostly Happy Meal, I'd say 99% Happy Meal promotions, any of the Happy Meal toys from 1988 to 2001, sold me 32 binders of his concept art. And I'm not talking little baby binders. I'm talking about 6 and 8 inch binders.
Yeah.
About 10,000 pages of concept art. And my estimate is probably 60 to 70% of the concept art included in those binders never got produced. And I do have it all scanned, and I do share it in little bits and pieces, just here and there. And those Babe cookies, there was a Babe Happy Meal, and they did get a toy line that went along with that, but they did not get a box of McDonald Land cookies that were shaped like Babe characters and had a Babe themed box. So when I saw that, I just figured I'd post it and see. I'm still kind of gauging interest. I'm still trying to figure out what folks really want to see. Seems like folks really like the translate signs because they're in that exact square shape that Instagram loves.
Yeah.
If it's right in an Instagram post, right? I know that folks love anything about, I had mentioned, any kind of cups or mugs. They love cups and mugs.
Yeah. Well, most people
or anything
still have
that's
them.
really like kind of silly.
Them.
What's that?
Yeah. Most people still have them, right? So a lot of that nostalgia, people still hold on to them. It was my birthday only just over a week ago. I went out for birthday lunch, and the friends that we went out to birthday lunch with, they're almost 40. And the mother actually said, "Oh, I saw that you had those McDonald's glasses. We still use them. My kids still drink out of them in our house.
Yeah.
And these are
Very
30
nice.
years old, nearly, these glasses, and they've stood the test of time. Most people are still familiar with them because they still see them even today, as
So
well
I'm
as.
going to tell you something that, so I don't pass on too much, but I was offered the original hand painted portraits that they used as the artwork on those mugs by the original artist.
For the
But
Batman.
because he was like a legit art, he was not affiliated with Batman, but he made it for that Batman promotion. And because he's like a legit artist, like a commissioned artist, we deal in two different kind of financial spheres. So I ended up turning it down, but I don't know, maybe one day I'll live to regret that, since it's such an iconic promotion. And I was offered that, and also he received an award from some kind of like a marketing organization for like promotion of the year, and he was going to
Wow.
throw in this trophy as a part of it, which I don't know, I guess would have been kind of cool. I'm sure he still has it. Maybe one day you'll see that pop up on my Instagram or
Maybe
something.
after we finish the recording, I might talk to you more about that.
Okay.
Because that was going to be the other item I spoke to you about, is those binders and all that concept art that I saw that you'd picked up. It's just an epic amount. And when you talk about being a time capsule, that's the stuff, right? That's the
It's one of
original,
a kind.
OG stuff. And the fact that you're scanning that, keeping track of it, I'd see that you have a spreadsheet that you keep all your translite that's tracked in. So I can only imagine how many translites you have. Like you said, about 1,600 individual, not including your duplicates and things. I can just imagine how much room it must all take. Even though they're flat, you still got to put them somewhere, right? They still
Yeah,
got to stack them up somewhere. It still takes up a lot of space.
it's about half of a pretty decent sized closet. So it's 11 24 by 24 boxes
Yeah.
and four 15 by 15 boxes, which are just right for those, and they're each 4 inches tall. So like, I don't know, like about waist high, couple stacks for the 22 by 22s. Takes up less room than you'd probably think. But if you need to get to a specific sign, moving those things around, these boxes weigh 70, 80 pounds a piece. I mean, it's a workout. I mean, it's it's they're not designed to be kept in bulk. They're designed to be shipped one at a time and put on a menu and thrown in a dumpster, right? So who am I to complain?
I tell you what, Bobby, I'm going to wrap up very shortly. I keep saying that, but I am definitely going to wrap up. You mentioned that you listened to an episode and you were taken with or you enjoyed hearing the pop quiz. I told you that I didn't really have a pop quiz for you, but something just popped in my head, and I thought it might be fun to do.
Uh-oh.
So
Okay.
I'm going to keep you to short answers here. All right. So
Sure.
all right. Sort of a rapid fire short answer questions. I'm going to throw a few things out, almost like a word association, right? Like I'm going to ask you a quick question, I'm going to throw out, and then you let me know. In your opinion, and in all the different things that you've seen, all right, the rarest item in your collection.
Oh, it's got to be the concept art binders. It's one of a kind. There's only one. I can speculate about, a Dukes of Hazzard translite sign or a Captain Crook sea bag translite sign, but I know there's only one binder set.
Cool. All right. Weirdest food item.
Oh boy. The weirdest food item, man, what would be? Oof. I mean, they've done just about everything that you could possibly imagine, but I just saw, I mean, this isn't necessarily the weirdest, but it's just the first thing coming to my brain. I just came across a translite sign of a kiwi sundae. There's like a kiwi sauce on it.
Oh, really?
And like, I just thought that was so cool and sounded actually really delicious. But I mean, who's putting a kiwi sauce on us? I don't know. Maybe y'all are.
No. I mean, New Zealand's next to us.
In the States, we don't have that. Not at all.
Okay. Biggest Happy Meal toy.
The biggest in terms of like how much real estate it takes up, or the biggest or the most successful promotion that they ever ran.
Size wise.
Size wise, it would probably be the Halloween pails, because it really takes up the whole, the whole geography of the box. It is the box.
Worst Happy Meal promotion.
Oh man, there are just thousands of them, but I'm going to use this one. McDonald's did so many promotions every year. Every year they do it. Hot Wheels and Barbie, Hot Wheels and Barbie, Hot Wheels and Barbie. I've got thousands of pages of Hot Wheels and Barbie drawings that I could care less about. That's got to be the worst. Now, was it successful? Obviously, it was wildly successful. That's why they did it every year. But for me, that's one thing that just does not connect with me on any level.
And because you are obviously, and we haven't really got to speak about it much, but I just need to throw it out there, as in terms of all the collectors that I've really had on the show, you'd have to be the closest to you are a picker. You are generally a picker who obviously gets out there and networks with other collectors, like you mentioned, goes out to other collections and finds your stuff that way. Most common franchise that you come across, movie franchise?
It might be Batman. I think it might actually be Batman. There's just, well, first off, I mean, they did the cups, they did, multiple Happy Meals. There was an animated series, that they did stuff with, so, and yeah, I'd probably say Batman.
Cool. And last but not least, this is a sort of a general question that I ask a lot of people. If you had to get rid of all the items in your collection, you can only keep one item, what would it be?
Oh man, this is awful. I would say, even though this isn't even something that's McDonald's oriented, I'd say it would probably be my Crystal Pepsi employee training tape. I love it. It's the greatest 18 minutes of video footage I've ever seen. It's a one of a kind collectible that is another thing that was ordered to be destroyed after, you train your employees on it, and, a product I have a lot of nostalgia for. So that might be it, but God, at that point, what's the use in living, right?
I'm gonna link that video in the description.
Cool.
But what I also will be linking in the description, and the way I always wrap up these shows, is to let everyone know where they can find you. Plug your socials for us.
Excellent. Well, I'd say the two best places to find me would be Instagram and Twitter. Both are at ConsumerTC, as in time capsule. I do still have that YouTube channel that has, I think, like 12 or 1,300 videos. That's just youtube.com/consumer time capsule, or you can just search for consumer time capsule on YouTube like a normal person. Do people use URLs on YouTube? Maybe not, right?
No, I just searched the name and it came up.
So yeah, but please follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I'm posting 2 unique items from my collection every single day. It's mostly McDonald's stuff, but also a lot of soda cans, cereal boxes, different food and drink advertising. And I think that anybody who's made it this far into the conversation should probably go check it out, because you must have some interest in it, right?
Bobby, I love it. Thank you very much for being on the show. This is, I actually, halfway through recording this, I thought, geez, we could probably talk for a long time. And a lot of the guests that I have on, we can talk for a long time. We probably could have done this over a 2-part, 3-part series. I think this interview, like with all the different questions and fleshing everything out. But I do appreciate your time. Thank you very much for being on the show. I've had an awesome time talking to you, and you are 100% a wealth of knowledge. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, JD. The pleasure is all mine.
And
I'll miss you till I see you. That's what I used to say at the end of all my YouTube videos.
If you liked the episode, please consider following or subscribing wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also join me on Instagram at Collecting Heroes, where you can see photos of the collections of the people that I'm talking to, as well as some of my own.